For this Booktube embarrassment tag, I am going to show you the world's most embarrassing young adult sci-fi book cover. Sandy says read, and welcome to the channel. Today we are going to do a Booktube tag. Let me go over to my screen. All right, this is the Booktube embarrassment tag. This was created by Andy over at Really Random Reads. I saw it at Pat's channel, of course, over at Book Chat with Pat. I'll spit that out. I also saw Kelly's version of this tag at Books I'm Not Reading. That's her channel. Now, you guys, I am going to show you the world's most embarrassing young adult sci-fi book cover during this tag. So just prepare yourself. Prepare yourself for the awesomeness of that. Let's dive into it. All right. Number 1, a book that someone or something made you feel embarrassed about liking. You guys, this is story time. Get ready. I've got some PTSD to share with you. Back in 7th grade, I attended junior high at Hazelwood Junior High in Hazelwood, Missouri. Okay. I do not remember the name of the book I was reading. I have suppressed that. I do not remember the name of the teacher who was involved in this incident. I've suppressed that. I don't remember the name of the student in class who was involved in this. I have suppressed that too. But I was reading a paperback book in between class periods. The bell had rung. We had run to our new classrooms. I was sitting in class in the middle of all the other students. I'm at my desk. I'm reading this book, and it was a book that was older, more mature. It was not a young adult book for a 7th grade student to be reading. All right. It was a paranormal horror story. I recall it having to do with a farm and a house in the middle of this farm and some kind of demon creature that was possessing some of the people at the farm. Okay. I remember that. Don't remember the name of the book, but I remember that. And I remember the scene I was reading had gotten a little racy. Okay. I shouldn't have been reading this book, but at that age, I shouldn't have been reading this book, but I was reading this scene where the farmer's wife was being assaulted by this demon creature. Okay. And one of the students in the class apparently was reading over my shoulder, was noticing what I was reading. And she flipped right out and she grabbed the book from me and was screeching and yelling, "Oh my God, you won't believe what Sandy is reading." And she ran to the front of the classroom and gave it to the teacher, all the while screeching about the fact that Sandy was reading a dirty book, that Sandy shouldn't be reading this. This was terrible. Sandy was such a terrible person, yada, yada, yada. And the teacher, I don't remember her name. I can picture her graying blonde hair. The teacher was like, "Well, Sandy wants to read this trash, then she can." Implying that I was reading trash and that I was trash for doing so. And she told me, if you want to be seen as the kind of person who reads this kind of stuff, that's up to you. And she did give the book back to me at the end of class, but that was the lesson I learned that day at the beginning of that class was, don't read books that might have a smutty scene in them in public. That's what I learned. So yes, that was a book that someone or something made me feel embarrassed about liking, because the book itself was fine. I mean, just there was a scene that got so racy in the middle of this book. And yeah, it became a thing. Yes, I still have PTSD from that moment. Obviously, look at me. I'm talking about it to this day. That was in 1982. Yeah. Okay. Number 2, a book you're embarrassed about completely missing the point of. You guys, I've got it right here in my hand. Okay, but half the books that I read in my science fiction class in college, it's been a hot minute. I don't remember all of the titles that we read in that class. We did read A Stand on Zanzibar. That one, I totally missed the point of it. It's a very non-linear book, right? That's one way of putting it. Very non-linear, just a sentence and then a break in the action and then another sentence and then a break in the action, then another sentence. And none of these sentences are connected. None of them. None of them. I mean, it's very, very innovative for its time, right? I mean, it was easy for me to miss the point of that because I was so floored by how different it was. I mean, it was a good experience for me. It was a good experience to read that book and come away from it going, wow, different, right? Okay. And there was a professor in the class to guide us in reading it, but that professor didn't really guide us as much as oh, God, what's a good word for what he did to us? He mocked us a lot for not understanding the things we were reading. He had a specific way that he understood each of the books we read, and we were to interpret them the way he did. And if we did not interpret them that way, we were stupid. So yeah, that was my experience in my sci-fi class in college. But Stand on Zanzibar, that was one I didn't really get the point. Now, I wasn't really embarrassed for not getting the point, but one that I was kind of embarrassed about not getting the point was Three Men in a Boat by Jerome K. Jerome. This one I was a little bit embarrassed about not getting the point because I read this one as an adult. I wasn't in college with a professor kind of, lording over me and telling me I was stupid. No, I read this one as an adult here in the last maybe 8-10 years. I've read this one. And I didn't get the point. I didn't. I'm a little embarrassed by that. But I mean, there's these three guys and they go on a little boating excursion, just three of them, because they wanna. It's a thing to do. They've got their dog with them. Monticello, was that his name? Monticello? Montague, Monticello, something. Montmorency, standing on his hind legs before the window, peering out into the night, gave a short bark of decided concurrence with the toast. The end. Yeah, this, I didn't get it. It was a fine book. There's a scene in here where the three men are at someone's house and there's a German there that they are antagonizing and they're like playing the piano and telling a story through song. I just didn't understand the point. So I'm a little embarrassed by that, but maybe someone out there can tell me in the comments below the point of Three Men in a Boat. Maybe the point was just going on an adventure as three guys having an adventure. Maybe that's the point. You can tell me. All right. What are we up to? Number three? Number three. Prompt number 3 is a book you've been embarrassed or would be embarrassed to be seen reading in public. So these days, probably like 50 Shades of Grey. I wouldn't want to be seen reading that in public just because it has such a stigma with it, right? I don't want people throwing shade at me. But I mean, if we stop and think about it, public has different meanings, does it not? I mean, there's different connotations to reading in public. I mean, if you're reading in a library, you're in public. And I don't think anyone should be embarrassed by anything that they're reading in a library. You do you. Now, I travel for business a lot. Not as much as I used to, but I do travel for business. And I would be embarrassed if I were in the airport reading 50 Shades of Grey and a business colleague noticed me and said, "Sandy, are you reading 50 Shades of Grey?" Before I sound like a complete arrogant ass, let me say, I have been noticed or identified. I have been recognized in the airport before. And I'm not trying to be an arrogant ass. I'm just saying that has happened. And so I would be embarrassed if I was reading 50 Shades of Grey and someone from the asphalt industry walked up and said, "Sandy, what are you reading?" I would be embarrassed. Yeah, I would be embarrassed. Okay. Should we move on to number 4? Let's move on to number 4. A book you'd be embarrassed or hesitate to buy in person. Probably 50 Shades of Grey, right? So if I'm in person, like in the bookstore, I don't, if you're in a bookstore, if you're in Barnes and Noble, if you're in Books a Million, if you're in an indie publishing, indie bookstore, you do you. Buy what you want to buy. I can't imagine. I don't know. I don't think I'd be embarrassed to buy any book in a bookstore. But again, if I'm in the airport, if I'm at a bookstore in an airport grabbing a book off the shelf, I think I would be more cautious about who's around me. I think I would just be more nervous in an airport bookstore. I think I would. I think I would. And I would not buy 50 Shades of Grey in an airport bookstore. I just wouldn't. Okay. Number 5, a book you've been embarrassed not to like. A book you've been embarrassed not to like. Okay, yes. Blind Sight. This was a vampires in space novel. It's a science fiction. It's hardcore science fiction. I didn't really care for it. I liked the vampires. Now, don't get me wrong. The vampires were very well done. This has been a couple of years ago, so I might not get this right. But the vampires were like, I believe they were here on Earth before us, and we like woke them somehow, and they were advanced enough that they assisted on our ships that we built to go out into space. And we went out into space to check on a signal that was coming from space. And the vampires went with us on those ships, some of us on those ships to check it out. But the vampires were quite the evil things, and they had weird eyes. Yeah, so it was really cool, but I didn't really like the book. And I guess I'm embarrassed by that because I talked about it here on the channel, and all the sci-fi bros came out of the woodwork and were like, you should like this. I'm like, I know I should. The vampires are great, but I just didn't get into it. I just didn't. Yeah. Okay. Number 6. Let's move on to number 6. A book cover you find embarrassing. Here we go. You guys, this is one of my own. Okay, my Dragons in Space series, if you guys have been following the channel for any time, you know that it has been with a couple different publishers. Those publishers closed their doors. Thank goodness this one closed its doors because I got the rights back to my book. Look at this ugly, terrible cover. I don't want it to be up there for very long because it's just terrible. That's just terrible. I mean, that cover, there's no dragons. You would have no reason to believe there were dragons other than it says book 2 of the Dragons in Space series. But this cover doesn't say dragons to me. No, not at all. And that is a moon. I would assume that we're looking at a moon there. I'm kind of assuming that, but yeah, that's just awful. That's just awful. It's orange, you guys. Yeah. That's terrible. So that's a cover that I am embarrassed by. I wouldn't carry this thing out into the world anywhere. Not at all. Not at all. So I am so very thankful that I brought that series in-house. I do it myself now. The covers are much better. I mean, I'm not saying that they're great. I did them myself, but they're better. Moving on. Number 7, right? Are we up to number 7? Number 7, a book or books you feel embarrassed not to have read. Oh, most of the classics that are out there. I have a slew of classics on the classics bookcase over there that I haven't read yet. I have them. They're in hand. I have best intentions, but yeah, it's embarrassing. It's a travesty. It's a crime. 8, an author or genre you're embarrassed to like or have been embarrassed to like. Now, I don't know that I'm embarrassed by any of the authors or genres that I like. Even if I like it, I like it. There you go. Why should I be embarrassed by that? It's good stuff. I mean, I love fantasy. There have been folks who like look down their nose on the fact that I write fantasy. Like, this is not a real literature. Well, this basket is empty when we go doing that kind of thing. Okay. Every genre has its reader. There are readers out there for everything. Every book has a reader, right? Every story has a reader. Yeah, I'm not embarrassed by any of the genres that I like. No, no, no. It is what it is. Let's see. Show us or number 9. We're on to prompt number 9. Show us or tell us about an embarrassing bookish object. You guys, this is awesome. I don't have it anymore. I got rid of it because it was embarrassing. When I first started BookTube back in 2018, I didn't have little bookish items around on my bookshelves. I had books. I had books and bookmarks, some bookmarks, but I didn't really have little tchotchkes, right? I didn't have little bookish items. I didn't, but I saw on other BookTube content creators channels that they did have little tchotchkes and little bookish items. I'm like, oh, okay, so I'm supposed to have that stuff on my shelf behind me in my videos. Okay. So I went to like Hobby Lobby. I went to one of those places and I got a little wooden easel, this tiny little easel, and one of those little bitty, like 2-inch by 2-inch canvas items. Is like a little canvas frame, and I painted it gold, and I used like a Sharpie marker to write on it, "Reader, I married him." And I put that on the easel and I put it on my Bronte shelf over here behind me. Like I've got a whole case of Bronte stuff that spills over onto this other case. And I put that on the shelf in front of some of the Bronte books. Yeah, that was my bookish item because that's all I had. I hadn't collected bookish things like that, right? I never really thought of it. And if I was going to spend money, hard-earned money on a bookish thing, it was going to be a book. Okay, that's kind of where my brain was for a really long time because I'm not a wealthy person, okay? Well, since I had this channel, I've noticed some bookish things that I didn't have to like make with my hands. I got rid of that little easel and its crazy little sign, and I did purchase these candles. This is Bell and Book. That's the company that made these candles. One is called Thornfield Hall, which is wonderful, and one is called The Moors. And I've had them for several years now, and they sit on my Bronte shelf now instead of that silly little easel that I made. This one is, let's see, The Moors. It's heather, juniper berry, and oak moss. Doesn't that sound nice, huh? Yeah. And it has a quote from Wuthering Heights. It says, "I bounded, leaped, and flew down the steep road. Then, I can hardly see this. Then, quitting its windings, shot direct across the moor, rolling over banks and wading through marshes." You guys, I can't read it. The type is too small. My eyes are too ancient. The type is too small. That's not working out. Okay. And then Thornfield Hall is cut grass, pine, and wood smoke. So it sounds very, very much like Rochester himself, doesn't it? Yeah. Okay. There are these little candles are my bookish items on the shelves. And then I've got a 3D printed dragon that I picked up from an author's table at Imaginarium, and that dragon sits in front of some of my fantasy stuff. I've got little tchotchkes like that now that are bookish items. Yeah. I'm not embarrassed about those. Those are cool. Prompt number 10. What words, sounds, or phrases do you feel embarrassed about overusing on BookTube or in life? Oh, you guys. Okay, so I actually made a bingo card for all of the words and phrases that I overuse here on this channel, because I am fully aware that I say some things way too many times. I know that I use the word like as a filler when I'm talking, and I don't appreciate that in myself. I don't like that I do that, but it is an affectation. It is something that I do. I wish I could stop. There it is. It's in my speech pattern, and it's a difficult thing to break myself of doing. but I do have some words that I say an awful lot. So I made a Sandy Says Read bingo card at the Bingo Baker website, and there is a link to that in my description of this channel, up in the information about the channel. There's an About Me section, and in that section, I think it's in there, I have it somewhere at the top of this channel where you can go and find the Sandy Says Read Bingo Baker card link. So you can download and print your own bingo card so that each time I'm doing a review of a book here on the channel and I say one of these words, you can check it off of your Bingo Baker card and get that little dopamine hit for having found it and checked it off. So there's words like dragon, because I'm always talking about dragon books. A clock reading challenge, because we do a clock reading challenge here the past couple of years. I'd say, sorry guys. I say that so freaking often on this. I don't know why, but I'm constantly doing stuff and then I'll go, sorry guys. Where is hold please? Yeah, hold please is on here because I picked that up from one of my coworkers. There is a gal who does our circulation for the magazine, and sometimes she joins us on our weekly company conference call. And when she does, she has this habit, and I love it. It's endearing, right? She will tell us, hold please, when she needs to look something up or when she needs to share her screen with us. She'll say, hold please. And I picked that up from her, and I like it. It's cute. I like it. Okay, there we go. That's the Bingo Baker card of all the weird, crazy things I say here on the channel pretty frequently. Is that enough? Have we answered all of the prompts correctly? Is that enough? The 11th prompt is to tag others, but I think this has been around a little bit. I think it's been about a month, and I'm filming it now after a month. I don't know when I'm actually going to get this uploaded, so I don't want to tag a bunch of folks who've already done it. I might go ahead and tag Joe Linsdell because I don't know that Joe has done it yet. I haven't seen her do this yet. Joe tends to do book reviews mostly. I haven't seen her do a ton of tags, so I might go ahead and tag her on this one. Joe is a friend of mine who got me into BookTube, and I'm so glad that she did. Okay, I think that's it. We have done it. You guys, thumbs up for embarrassing moments on BookTube. Thank you for tuning in.